Hey guys, welcome to SEO Cheat Guides. Thanks for joining us on today's show. Today we have a special guest, John King, with us. I met John down in Las Vegas at the recent local client takeover event. Had dinner with him, his partner Gary, and his dad Mark. And we sat down and talked about his business. He's got a business that's exploding right now. He does white hat SEO and has all kinds of good information to share with us. So without further ado, John, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Stuart. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this business.
So like you had mentioned, my name is John. I work full-time as a managing member over at placementseo.com, and we have a few other brands associated with that as well. I've been doing SEO or practicing SEO since I was about 16 years old, professionally since I was 18. I got into it just because I had this really weird fascination with really just trying to manipulate things, and the search algorithms were definitely a challenge. And whenever I was able to figure out how to make my website pop up on page one for very important keywords to my own brands, I just got totally hooked. And so ever since, I just found myself trying to help other people achieve those kind of results through search engine consumer search, and that's got me where I'm at today.
So started at 16. How old are you today?
I'm 24.
That's 8 years. That's a long time in internet years.
That's a long time. I remember back in the day, it's like PBNs were huge, buildmyrank.com. I think I ranked my first website with Build My Rank, and then it tanked, and then I had to learn how not to use PBNs, and it's been a true 8 years of trial and error. So that's the fun part of SEO in general.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So when you first got started, tell us a little bit about how you found clients.
So now, do you want to know how when I was younger, or how we do it now when we first started placing SEO?
Let's start when you were younger. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of 16-year-olds out there looking up to you, through 24. And not to say that there's probably not 30 and 40-year-olds looking up to you, but just in terms of, young kids that are out there today that are, the next version of yourself, they're going to be wondering kind of the things that you did to overcome what a lot of people have in terms of insecurities. I'm too young, or, I don't know enough. So it'd be interesting to hear how you kind of got over those.
So it's interesting. When I was a lot younger, I did mention, I think it was when I was 17, I actually started my first SEO business, and that was after I tried doing web hosting and sold that business. But first, when you're really young, you still have chances of establishing yourself as an authority. If you do your reading, you do your research, you have data-proven research, you can sell anything. As a young person, the number one way of selling was just networking. They have a bunch of small groups in your towns guaranteed that'll say, you know what, even if you're 17, you can come in and join and visit. A lot of these groups might say we don't allow more than one marketer or one specific person per vertical so that they're not overlapping services.
Sure.
But networking was definitely how I was doing it. I joined the Chamber of Commerce membership. I think it cost me maybe $200 a year. My dad actually forked over the money for that.
Shout out to Mark.
So my dad actually contributes a lot to my early success regarding SEO and business. But I would go and meet with these business owners in my small town, and just kind of keep in mind too, where I lived at that time, we had about 9,000 people in population. That growth expanded to 120,000 over the summer because of Yellowstone National Park. So all of their money and all of their revenue were focused on tourism, right? Sure. So all I had to do was go to these groups and say, hey, my name is John, I specialize in this, and here's how I can help you get more money from tourists. And that was my opening in a local SEO. And that's kind of how I got my start. So definitely networking as a young person. And when you explain things to people, don't be technical. Don't sit there and go, well, here's how the algorithms work. You have to talk in layman's term. And but you also have to be able to take your information and prove to them that it can make their money back as well. And so definitely possible as a young person. So just networking is how I got started when I was at a younger age. And I had zero money to be able to invest into it.
Fantastic. So you had some early success. Where did you kind of go from there in the career? I know a little bit about the backstory, but I'll kind of pull it out from you. So you started 16. What was the first kind of venture, and kind of how did you start to bring other people in to start to scale up a business?
So the first company that I ever had the opportunity of really learning how to scale was Placement SEO, because we have a team base of about 18 people on payroll. Before that, as a younger person, the first real business that I got into was when I was 20. We raised a $4 million Series A capital investment, and we didn't really have the opportunity too much to scale then. but trying to think. As far as the original question, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did you have partners in the original business where you did raise that money? And how did you find those partners and kind of, again, pulling out what kind of learning you've gotten from that? I know a lot of people out there, they have one skill set. Maybe they don't have another. So some people are very technically inclined, but they don't have the gift for gab, or they are not able to go out and sell. And then obviously there are some people like yourself who you can well-rounded and be able to do a lot of it. But there are a lot of people who need to partner with people. So I'm just curious how you found your partner, if you had one.
Okay, so partner in placement SEO, I actually found him on Warrior Forum. Before we started placement SEO, I was doing freelance marketing services, and he actually found me through the Warrior Forum website. I was working for him and some freelance stuff for maybe 4 or 5 months. And over time, it just became really obvious that if we worked together, we could do so much more, not only in revenue, but just in value as well, because you need to be, if you want to grow your business, you have to grow on revenue or on value, not just money, right? Now, when you get a partner, always make sure that the two of you bring something unique to the table. One of my really big early failures was because my partner that I brought on, he did the same thing as me, and I did the same thing as him. So we really didn't have anything outside of our own bubble, and that caused us to fail pretty big. Far as finding partners too, I mean, there's a lot of ways to find them. I mean, there's partner websites out there looking for people to, team up and start business. I got lucky and found Gary on Warrior Forum. But if you go back to our earlier conversation, if you go networking and you're in groups, whether it's a business management group and they're trying to learn how to scale and you teach each other, networking is a great way to find people who share similar interests, but might also bring in something that's a little bit different than what you have to offer. And so if you're looking for somebody to help, for instance, if you do SEO and you're looking for a web designer, go network. I guarantee you're going to find somebody who would be interested in saying, hey, if you do the SEO, we'll do all the web work, or we'll do all the PPL or whatever. That's a great way to start.
Absolutely. I know for myself, early in my SEO kind of career, I got offered the opportunity to buy in on a $5 million business. They wanted to give me 35%. I helped them scale that business to $18 million.
Nice.
Just as their marketing strategic arm, and they wanted to kind of lock me in. So you definitely get a ton of opportunities as you start to network with people and start to add value, as you mentioned. So in terms of starting placement SEO, when did you and Gary decide to bring other people into the mix, and what kind of prompted that for you guys?
So that's a good question. The very first people that we brought in were virtual assistants, right? My number one go-to place for VAs is onlineph.com, hands down. But we started bringing people on not when we needed them, but when we forecasted that we need them. And that's a huge thing that you need to understand with business and scaling, is that you don't hire people when you need them. You start prospecting before you need them, right? So for us, we were going, okay, we're growing at this scale. Once 2 months has passed, we know that if we're this big, we're going to need somebody else to be helping us.
Sure.
So we began looking for VAs who would qualify to do certain tasks. And then when we started hiring full-time people, we were looking at the processes of going, okay, here's a pool of processes that would go under the title of marketing manager or project manager.
Sure.
And in 2 months, we're going to need to do that because I'm spending too much time in one area, or Gary is spending too much time in one area, or our VAs aren't quite qualified to handle projects at scale of that size. And so within 2 months, we should have interviewed 5 or 6 people. And within that second month period, we can say, hey, we're going to go ahead and bring you on, and here's your start date. And when they come on, they're ready for training. And so it's all about being able to forecast when you need people versus when you need them right now. So that's kind of how we got started. Once we got to a point, we knew within 2 months we would have to have somebody, and we would start that process early.
Fantastic. So, I mean, I know you guys have gone through quite a growth curve. So what were some of the challenges that you inevitably faced when you were growing the business? I mean, I know you're still growing the business. So what were some of the earlier challenges that you faced? I'm sure we'll get to some of the future challenges you anticipate.
Yeah. I think that some of the biggest challenges that we faced were process fulfillment. And if you were there at the LCT Live event, Ryan Stewart talked a lot about it. With when clients came on, if they didn't really fit their process, they would refer them out to another partner. When we were scaling, and we're still scaling, right? So we're still growing. we were at first at the point to where if somebody was willing to give us money, we would take them on, right? And whether or not they followed our process or not, if we had a process that was linear and they broke that line, we would fulfill that somehow. We would say, you know what, we'll work with you and try to make sure that we convenient your team. And that was probably the worst thing that we ever did, because it ended up resulting in refunds. So that's a huge challenge that we had to face, was being able to build a process to scale with that had enough people that would fit that process, right? And so actually what we ended up doing was emailing a ton of prospect people who replied back and saying what they actually needed and what they were looking for, and we built the process around that specifically, and that's how we've been able to grow. We pretty much built a funnel, and then we took them all and moved them down that funnel while making sure that they all fit without actually changing our internal process. Right. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how we end up doing it now, and it's working really, really well.
Well, I mean, I guess to simplify what you've said, you offer this service, you've productized this service. Anything that falls outside of this service, you're no longer trying to fulfill, because your business is set up to offer this product. You offer it really, really well. You know that you can deliver on it, and you know you'll have happy clients. When you start to deviate from that, what ends up happening is you have unhappy clients, and that just creates headaches and throws things into the mix. Right, and you can't scale that, right? I mean, custom work outside of your product becomes harder for you to kind of go along that growth continuum. So you said today your team's 18, about? That's awesome. So I know I see you're in your home office, so where does everybody kind of work from? Are some of them local, or some of them overseas? Where's Gary?
So we have people all over the place. All of our full-timers are all scattered. We don't have one person in the same place. So I'm in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I live here because of family. Gary is in North Carolina. He's moving to Tampa, Florida here soon. Mark, which is my dad, works for us full-time. He lives in Idaho over in Twin Falls. And then most of our fulfillment teams that we've brought in full time, they either live here in America. We have some in Texas and some over in Washington. Yep. And a lot of them live over in the Philippines too, who we've come in and vetted, and they work for us 40 hours a week, and they're great. So definitely not a single location operation, that's for sure.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that creates an issue. So, I mean, I think there's probably some experience that you could share, seeing as you have such a large team relative to what most people are handling. How do you deal with communication in terms of meetings, or kind of getting everybody aligned on what they're doing?
So with like Mark and Gary, I mean, we're only really 2 hours apart from each other. So Mark is back on the West, or Mountain Time, and me and Gary are here in Eastern. So we don't really have big problems with communication and meetings. When it comes to our guys who are overseas, we tackle that issue by using Google Sheets, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever they do, we assign them in Asana, and then they translate their work to Sheets. And if they have issues, they leave notes. And once we get up in the morning, we can fill those notes and give them answers on what they need to do. I mean, we have guys over in Hong Kong, and it's a 12-hour difference, right? Yep. And so it's really hard to say when they're working for us. It might be 3 o'clock in the afternoon versus 3 in the morning our time, right? Sure. So that's kind of how we combat that. If we need to talk to them on video, we set up a time and say, hey, sometime during your day, we'll be up and we'll do a video conference with you guys. And we try to do that once a month. And then, I mean, yeah, like, that's kind of how it works. And then when we schedule things, when we say, hey, here's your task, we try to give them tasks that are due well in advance so that their time zones don't conflict with ours. Right. And we have enough time to review their work and all that.
Perfect. So you mentioned it a little bit before, but how do you determine when the next hire is coming? So, I mean, when you're growing as much as you're growing, you must always be in hiring mode. How are you kind of planning that out with Gary in terms of who's being brought on when, how are they getting trained? Have you systematized it so that it's super easy for people that are coming in to just follow your system?
Well, that's kind of why you need SOPs, right? And so, like, when somebody logs in, they can sit there and go, okay, here's their process. And for every single process that you have a documentation or a video that says, here's how you fulfill that. So that actually helps take care of the training. When you bring somebody on and say, hey, here's our entire sheet. I want you to follow step 1 through 10. And by the time you get to 10, you will know our entire process, which why following back, that's super important that you work in one process in your company so that when you do hire people, training is a breeze, right? And if they can't do it, then they probably weren't a good hire. but right? Yeah. But as far as when you hire, like right now, we have to figure out based on our current clients, how many projects can one person handle without feeling overloaded, right? I mean, you can stack 15 clients on one person, but they're going to do a really shitty job, right? So you kind of have to have a formula that says, hey, you know what? John can manage 3 clients, like, whereas Gary, 3 clients, Mark, 3 clients. And as we continue to scale, we take that formula based on our current full-timers and go, here's how they're doing. We should be able to hold new hirees to that expectation. So if we're growing at a certain rate, by those growth numbers, we know when we need to start hiring new people and putting application inquiries out.
Okay, so another good learning point for anyone watching. First of all, SOP is Standard Operating Procedure. For those of you wondering what the acronym is, again, Standard Operating Procedure. Another thing really to take away from this is if you want to be able to scale, you need to have these positions documented. You need to have that standard operating procedure, so you're not going in and having to teach people a system one-off. It's all documented. They come in, they follow the documentation, and that just allows for the simplicity of scale, which is a great takeaway for all of us to learn from, for sure. So do you focus on helping a certain type of business, or do you focus on a certain geography? How do you really find the people, or is it, again, whoever comes as long as they want that single product that you're offering?
Finding people. So that's like giving away the big golden nugget, right? No. So far as verticals, though, anybody starting a SEO agency, even like placement SEO, we kind of went in and took everybody that we could at first because, $500 was $500. And then it got to a point where we're like, hey, if you can't spend, anything, or if you can't spend at least $5,000 a month, we're not going to take you on because A, you're not investing enough money to get results, and B, it's not worth our time, But as far as verticals, right now we're focused more on the cannabis market, on the local business to business market, and then the agency market, which is my specialty in helping other agencies provide outreach for their clients. The one takeaway I want to give on that, though, is that there's several people in the LCT community or SEO cheat sheets or anywhere else that says, if you're going to break down into different verticals, don't do it under one brand. So placement SEO isn't specialized in cannabis or specialized in outreach for other agencies. Build out different websites for each vertical. So when you're beginning to scale and you're past that point of saying, okay, you know what, I've got 15 people who are paying $500 a month. How do I scale? That answer is niching it down to a vertical and building a site for it and a brand. Because as soon as you go to somebody or like a dentist and say, hey, I own dentalseo.com, they immediately in your mindset establish that you are a authority in that market, and your chances of closing a deal with them just increase exponentially. So that's kind of, so like for us, business to business marketing verticals, and then the cannabis vertical and the agency vertical. So we have 3 different verticals and 3 different brands. On how we get those clients at this point in our agency, a lot of it is inbound. Okay. Most of which inbound is people coming to us and saying, hey, here's what we got. Can you help us out?
Yep.
So with places like Agency Tailored, which is one of our agency brands, most of that stuff is really easy to just to take in and not have to worry about vetting because we have a very specific product. And when people reach out, they know what we're offering, and that's what they're after. As far as CannaWeb, which is our cannabis, a lot of that's inbound. Some of it's Facebook marketing, though Facebook is really hard on doing any kind of promotion as far as cannabis or bong and pipes and stuff like that.
It's kind of hard to believe. You'd think they're smoking some out there in, I think they're in Palo Alto or wherever they are.
Everywhere. But our biggest success, our 2 biggest successes for outbound marketing, one is Facebook ads, and it's by offering free services through Facebook ads. Now, it sounds really contradictory, but we'll actually go out, make an ad, and say, click here for a month of free service, and we'll invest $1,000 into somebody and say, here's what we can get you. Once that month is over, we show them the difference results from month 1 to month 2. And if they want to sign, they know it's worth it, right? And it sounds like that's a big investment up front. It kind of is. But our closing rates are really high with that strategy. And then our second outbound is cold email, and we get phenomenal results in cold email outreach. As a matter of fact, hopefully Stuart will link out to my cold email article that you guys can read, but it technically shows you how we went from making $0 to $20K a month in the first month from one client found on Craigslist. And that walks you through exactly what we do for our cold email. And it's a strategy that's super overlooked anymore. People usually shun on it because it's spammy, but if you follow my way and my procedure, it'll be very customized and it'll look really professional.
Okay, so I'll definitely link out. That's on johntking.com, and I'll get the exact link and I'll drop it below the video for sure, so that people can follow through to that. So you talked about kind of how you're finding your business now. You touched on another point. I just want to kind of come back because you're giving a lot of gold nuggets to people, but I just want to kind of bring it back. So really what you're doing is a risk reversal, right? So many people in the SEO world are coming in and saying, hey, pay me $500 or $1,000 a month for 3 months, and then maybe I'll deliver or maybe I won't. You've basically come in with a risk reversal that really is positioning in that person's mind, wow, these guys are willing to do it for free. They're obviously very confident in what they're going to be able to deliver. You're obviously, I would suppose anyways, telling them what your price point is up front. So it's like, hey, we will work with you. We will give you this for free. Our prices are $5,000 a month. So it's not somebody looking for one link and then they're going to disappear. These people are really just looking for you to show them value. If you do, they're really willing to invest in their business and scale up with you. Correct?
Right. That's absolutely. Yep.
So that risk reversal is something that not enough marketers are kind of putting into play. And again, big fan of Jay Abraham, but that's one of his tenets is to take the risk out, especially for a new customer coming in. You shouldn't expect them to take the full risk of working with you.
Right. Yeah. So when you do that too, you really have to make sure that potential client is super qualified, because there's a lot of people out there who'll go, hell yeah, 1 month free service, and then I'm going to walk away and get a free month of SEO. But so when you take on that risk approach, you really have to make sure that there's revenue behind their company, that there's already pre-existing traffic to their website. You just have to make sure that they can afford it. Anybody will say yes to anything if it's free. Right. So there's a lot of different things that you have to do to make sure it qualifies. But we have a lot of success with that because in today's SEO market, there are so many businesses that are SEO or that are scared of SEO because they've been screwed by somebody else who just didn't deliver. They were paying this much money. So that's one of our strategies to really combat that problem.
Fantastic. So you've already touched on them, but I had the question, so I'm going to ask again. So do you have any tips you can share with kind of our audience? Understanding that there are a lot of people out there that are doing it as a side hustle. There are a lot of people out there that are just, starting at this full time. Any recommendations for if you were starting at that point today, how you would go out and get customers? Obviously, at this point, you're getting a lot of inbound because you've been in the business for a year, and basically this is your expertise, is how to drive inbound. So, but for somebody that's just starting out, what would you say is the way they should go out and get customers at the beginning of their journey?
So don't spread yourself too thin, right? Have $200 in your pocket to invest. You need a tool called Yet Another Mail Merge, which is a Google Sheets add-on. It allows you to send 1,500 emails a day. Essentially, it's an email marketing tool through Sheets, and it allows you to email a crap ton of leads and customize those emails through G Suites. And then the other investment would be obviously a little template for your website from themeforest.net. And don't have somebody build your site, just build it yourself. Take the 5 or whatever hours to build a few pages and then niche it down. Don't just go in and take all that you can get. That was my biggest mistake starting off. Just say, you know what, I want to be an expert in the dental, the law, B2B, retail, and start there. Okay, and then once you do from there is you start going out and you find in your town and your surrounding areas. If you're a dental specialist, you go and you find every single domain related to dental offices. And you take that and you run it through anymailfinder.com or Clearbit is my favorite one. It's $50. And what that does is that takes a domain name. It tells you the entire company staff line. It says, hey, you know what? Here's Stuart. He is the chief operations officer of this company, or they're the chief operations manager. And it gives you their phone number and their email, and they're both verified. So then you have the decision makers' information. And you can either cold email them with my strategy, or you can call them straight up, which I'm not a huge expert in the whole calling up the first part. I do it, but to me, it just works differently every time based on my own prospect portfolio. But that's how I would get started, and it works well. That $200, I guarantee you, will come back fivefold within the first month using Clearbit, Mail Merge, in your own vertical.
John, I think you just set the bar pretty high. I'm gonna go so far as to say the amount of knowledge coming out on this one is going to be probably the highest one we've done thus far. So let's continue on that. So what are the 3 best lessons you've learned that you could share with the audience? Kind of looking back.
At my younger self, man, I got a crap ton of lessons, and that's the beauty of business.
Yeah.
But my biggest one, when we first started talking, I kind of touched on how a partner and I raised $4 million and we lost it. That was because we threw all of our eggs into SEO. Okay, we took a massive capital investment from 2 guys, and our business growth model was just relying on organic results. That was a really dumb decision. So for people who are starting, once you start and get a few clients, it might be worth kind of exploring how to run some Facebook ads for your clients and things like that. That's a great upsell tool, but it also drives crazy results. And a tool that I would recommend for that is adespresso.com. Very cheap. It gives you amazing analytics, and it pretty much takes 3 ads that you build and it split tests them into about 48 different ads automatically, and it tells you what runs best. The 2 others, I would say, definitely partners doing the same thing. If you do find a partner in SEO or any kind of marketing business, don't partner with somebody who offers the same service. That's really dumb, because 2 people, that sets you up to creating 2 different verticals in your business. But if you're doing the same thing, you're just working together in one area. So don't do that. And my 3rd one is, this might sound weird, don't accept work if you have more than a 20% risk of having to refund the client. Now, some people would say, well, if you think you'll have to refund them, don't do it at all. But in my business model, I do a lot of work with helping agencies get on sites like Forbes and Entrepreneur, and sites that have really high-end traffic and high-end stats like that tend to change over time. They change their guidelines and rules on what they accept and don't accept. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to get on to this high-end website, if it's like a 15% chance that they won't get on, that's fine, because they'll probably still get on. But if it's anything more than 20, we just say, hey, you know what? We want to work with you, but in order to work with you, we want to be honest and just say there's too much of a chance that it won't work out.
Sure.
And so I think those are the 3 biggest things I've learned over time.
Awesome. So how do you currently divide your time? What are the major activities? Now that you're now that you're scaling your company and you've got 8 years under your belt in terms of running the digital marketing world, how do you currently split your time?
10% work, 90% either fishing or playing video games. No, I'm just kidding.
Hanging out in Vegas and partying? Or?
Oh, Vegas and partying, meeting you and Steven, and yeah. So I would say, first of all, I use a tool called Wunderlist. Every single day on my computer is open. And I had different tools like Zapier and Sheets that put in tasks in there every day for me automatically. And I just work down those. Now, as far as dividing my time, when we first started scaling, I was obviously spending a ton of my time trying to work the process versus trying to continue to sell, right? Which is what I really hate doing. I love having a process and then saying, hey, guy, do the process while I continue bringing in more clients. That's kind of where I want to be at.
Sure.
So today, I spend probably a good 75% of my time doing outbound, networking, emailing people, even giving free advice. I help a lot of people for free. When I first started, it was definitely 90% of my time fulfillment until we figured out how to start bringing on people using our SOPs and using our different channels of finding VAs and full-timers. And so, but yeah, definitely right now, most of the time I'm doing all outbound sales strategies.
Nice. So how big are you planning on growing the agency?
5 years, man, I want to be at 25 mil a year. That's kind of where I want to be. But that's all brands, coming in together in one pot.
Sure.
But I don't want to scale up that if I can't offer value behind it. I mean, money is great, but money is nothing if you have no value, right? So we definitely have a lot of work to do to accomplish that in full.
Well, it sounds like you're growing quite quickly. It's amazing how fast it gets up there. So what's something you spent less than $100 or around $100 recently that you're enjoying? Doesn't have to be marketing related.
Ah, man, good question. This is going to sound super cliche being a husband. I bought like $50 flowers for my wife for Nurses Week. And to me, that's just her coming home being, oh, honey, thank you. To me, that's like perfect. That's all I need to be happy.
Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life, man, 100%. I think outside of that, was going fishing yesterday there in the New York City coastline, bluefish fishing. So it's like $25. That was great. It was a good time.
Awesome. That was only $25.
Yeah, so I have a family member who owns the fishing boat, so
Okay.
all I have to do is pitch in for gas. So.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, that seems pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, that's pretty inexpensive. Yeah, good old family hookups.
Awesome. John, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing all your knowledge with us. For anybody watching, if you like this and you want to subscribe below, hit the subscribe channel if you want to see more videos like this. I will make sure to link to all of the nuggets that John dropped for us. You can check him out online at Placement SEO. You can check out his personal blog at johntking.com. And again, everything will be linked below. John, thanks a lot for taking the time with us today.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Perfect.